Well, hello out there to all of you seekers of literary escapism. Welcome to my channel where I sit amongst my dolls for absolutely no apparent reason whatsoever and talk about the books I like. Because the world is scary, so I like to escape into fiction and then sit amongst all of my plastic pals and talk to myself about it. My name is Daniel and I am the Barbie Book Boy. If you're looking to emotionally wreck yourself in a safe and controlled literary environment, then have I got the book for you. The Last Witch by C.J. Cooke. This book takes us on a misogynistic misadventure of malarkey from start to finish. It's a historical fiction novel chock full of real people, places, and poppycock. So go and grab yourself a heaping dose of righteous indignation. Trust me, you're gonna need it. And let's dive right in. The year is 1485. And that alone already tells us that it's gonna get good and nasty pretty quick. Because 1485 is not a good time in human history. Though I'm starting to suspect that there's never actually been a good time in human history. It seems like from the moment that we first developed language, all we've done to each other is fight and burn and accuse, oh my. But I digress. For now, we're in Innsbruck, Austria, where real-life historical figure Helena Schoberin is living the shackled life of a proper married gal, which at that time was about as good as it was going to get for any woman. The standard was basically to just not get routinely beaten by your husband and to maybe pop out a couple of kids along the way. Then die. If a woman could do that, well then she was just living the high life. Doesn't that sound like fun? Lord, what are we doing? Anyway, Helena for the most part is able to keep her head above water, but she does lean toward being a bit more outspoken than what was permissible at that time. Or any time, like even today. Because the patriarchy has been trying to silence women since day one. Again, I digress. Helena is mostly focused on trying to produce an heir for her moody husband, Sebastian. But things take a turn in her world when a particularly little nasty monk of a man named Heinrich Kramer comes barreling into town on a self-righteous wave of tomfoolery. He is on a witch hunting mission of the legally sanctioned medieval variety, which, if you've been paying attention to history, is the worst kind. And he sets his beady little sights on Helena because she had the absolute gall to challenge him and his wicked ways in front of like a lot of people, which was equal parts satisfying and terrifying at the same time. Because, 1485. I mean, drawing the ire of a witch hunter was a bold but ultimately doomed act that was made all the worse when her husband's footman dies under mysterious circumstances, providing a convenient scapegoat with which to further solidify the case against Helena. So, predictably, she's arrested and thrown in the dungeon with a whole slew of other women from her town. Well, now she doesn't have anything left to lose. It's just her against this maniacal monk, and she ain't going down without a fight. Helena takes on the task of fighting for her life, and by golly, I am here for it. And that's basically the story of The Last Witch by C.J. Cooke, the somewhat true story of a woman who had the guts to take on the real-life man who wrote the infamous Malleus Maleficarum, and would eventually become one of the most notorious misogynists in history. So what are my thoughts? This book is a well-researched horror that feels like it's suffocating you, but in the thrilling literary sense. Reading this book made me feel like I was in an interrogation room, and I was nervous, like sweating, because it was giving the slow, methodical machinery of institutional cruelty. And we as the reader have a front row seat to watching history as it loses its dang mind. The horror here is administrative. It's courts, it's laws, it's religion. It's men with bad hygiene and zero emotional intelligence deciding that women are the problem. And this story really happened. I mean, obviously there are some liberties being taken here because all that we really have is some surviving court records. But you can feel the research on every page, though it never turns into like a lecture. Instead, it just feels like a pressure cooker, or a crucible, if you will, where arbitrary church authority suffocates everything else. And author C.J. Cooke is nothing short of a masterful story weaver who doesn't soften anything for us as the reader. She goes in hard for emotional crippling, and she succeeds. Because this book is kind of like a blueprint for what happens to us as a people when society devolves into fear. And we just keep doing it over and over again. It's like we never learn our lesson. Some people's children. Every interaction in this book feels like another brick being laid in the wall of inevitability. Because no matter what these women say or do, or even what they don't say and what they don't do, they just can't win. And something as simple as just living a happy little life is a total exercise in futility. Because the very real historical figures that are threaded into this book function as embodiments of absolute power, who all agree that women who step outside of church-sanctioned behavior should die, like to death. But you know, sometimes it was often not even about behavior. It could be anything. A jealous neighbor, an unruly child who got mad at his mom for something dumb. It didn't matter, because women didn't matter. Which is exactly why this book is so ripe for modern commentary. Because from our modern vantage point, the logic completely collapses. The reasoning is so obviously circular, and all of the conclusions seem predetermined. We're able to understand that the fear here is manufactured, and that a broken system has the nerve to call itself justice, which feels regrettably familiar. Reading this book in the present day is like reading the origin story for institutional misogyny. You see how language is weaponized, how accusations become tools, how moral panic becomes policy. Back then it was witchcraft. Today it's just whatever label is the most convenient at the time. Because even though our hygiene is better, we still haven't learned our lesson. What makes Cooke's writing especially effective is that she shows how normalized this cruelty can be. These are people just doing their jobs. People just following the rules. Sound familiar? Which today is arguably the most chilling narrative of all. Evil to this very day is procedural. From a modern perspective, it's impossible not to notice how much effort went into building a system that was dedicated to being so unbelievably wrong. I mean, imagine building an entire legal framework to prosecute something that doesn't even exist. It's madness. From a craft standpoint, this novel is meticulously structured. The pacing never relaxes. The tension builds through the institutional abuse of power rather than jump scares. It's dread by paperwork, doom by doctrine. The story tightens like a legal noose because Cooke never lets the reader forget that it's really about corrupt power deciding what counts as truth. And when you read about these governing bodies deciding who is dangerous, who is moral, and who deserves control over their own bodies, it doesn't feel safely tucked away in a historical context. It feels like a rehearsal. And these witch trials start to look less like a historical anomaly and more like a prototype for the rest of history. I mean, we as a society have really not upgraded our software. Cooke trusts us as the reader to see the pattern of women who don't comply becoming problems that need solving. In the end, The Last Witch shows how easily fear becomes law and how quickly law becomes violence. And that's why it still matters. Misogyny is not some ghost story relegated to history. It's an ongoing story of governance. And that, unfortunately, seems to be timeless. So there you have it, my thoughts on The Last Witch by C.J. Cooke, a book that takes a bitter bite out of a real historical event and leaves us gagging on the taste. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to be doing these little book reviews weekly, so if this is your thing, then stay tuned. Oh, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Leave a comment telling me all about your own personal witch trials. Has anyone ever tried to burn you at the stake? Because if not, then are you even doing it right? Until next time, stay vigilant and go wreak havoc on the patriarchy. Bye!